It didn't begin with Margot Robbie, and it certainly didn't end with Anne Hathaway. What unfolded wasn't a single feud, but a repeating pattern, one that quietly stretched across 6 years, 5 major projects, 3 abrupt studio departures, and the carefully polished face of one actress who seemed to glide above it all. Blake Lively maintained the image of the harmless star, radiant on red carpets, effortlessly stylish, always smiling and publicly supportive of women, but behind every Vogue spread, every conveniently timed scheduling conflict, and every sudden casting reshuffle was a line of actresses who had been replaced, rewritten, or erased. For a long time, no one spoke out, but silence finally cracked when someone connected the dots. A casting director from a 2020 Netflix original leaked a curious document, not a full script or even a formal memo, just a stark list of 12 names under the vague header, blacklist, unfavorable pairings, non-approved female leads. Among them were Reese Witherspoon and Hathaway, and halfway down a name oddly cut in half, Margot Robbie. At first it seemed random, until the first name at the very top was revealed, not Blake but Ryan Reynolds. To understand how it fit, you have to rewind to 2020, when Reese Witherspoon was quietly shaping her next prestige project under her Hello Sunshine banner. Fresh off the 3rd season of The Morning Show, she was developing a stripped-back Hulu drama called The Quiet Years, a story of 2 sisters, a small rural town, and years of unspoken tension. She envisioned it intimate and grounded, and her shortlist for the younger sister role included serious, dramatic actresses. But the studio had other ideas. They suggested a bankable, camera-ready name, Blake Lively. On the surface, it seemed harmless. Reese didn't object. She had worked with Blake before, she had a reliable team, and she played nice. But that was the turning point. Changes began subtly. Blake's stylist requested wardrobe revisions, ensuring her character's clothes wouldn't appear too rural. Soon after, her representatives submitted script notes asking that her character's backstory be elevated, less trauma, more polish. Within weeks, the tone of the series shifted. A female director Reese had personally chosen was abruptly declared not the right fit. The costume designer quietly stepped away. Then Blake arrived on set with a creative consultant, a former Netflix strategist, whose influence began reshaping decisions. Reese kept smiling for appearances, but behind the scenes her vision was slipping away. What started as a small suggestion turned into a quiet takeover, and that same pattern, names erased, projects redirected, actresses displaced, kept repeating, hidden behind the sheen of charm and PR until someone finally pulled the thread loose. Privately, Reese began forwarding emails because she wasn't new to this game. She had seen the maneuver before. The press rollout starting before the script was even locked, the story reshaped until it no longer resembled her vision. Then one memo changed everything. It contained a version she had never approved, but it was already circulating, showing 2 pitches for The Quiet Years, one with Reese as the lead and another positioning Blake Lively as the primary face of the campaign. Reese said nothing publicly, no denial, no statement. But a week later her name quietly vanished from the cast list, and the Hello Sunshine logo disappeared from the production teaser. Meanwhile, Blake posted an Instagram story holding the script, captioned, "Special One." The premiere date was set for August 1st. Netflix banners were everywhere. Golden hour stills surfaced online, and whispers of Emmy buzz began to spread. But behind the polished promos, the energy was strange. There were no joint interviews, no co-star press, just Blake alone in every promotional clip. The trailer, a sequence of soft-focus shots of her wandering wheat fields in a $4,000 linen coat, drew scathing commentary. One critic summed it up bluntly: "This isn't grief. This is a fashion campaign with voiceover." Reviews arrived within 24 hours, noting how stunning Blake looked, but describing the performance as posed and stylized, clearly built on a role written for someone else. Online, fans grew suspicious. Many questioned why Reese wasn't part of the project, while others pointed out that the original premise of reconciliation and silence had been stripped away entirely. One viral tweet read, "This feels like Blake Lively trying to cosplay Reese Witherspoon. The lace, the lighting, the southern vibe." It's giving bootleg Hello Sunshine. Netflix buried the official numbers, but internal sources revealed the completion rate was disastrous. People started the series but rarely finished. And in the very same week, Reese posted a casting call on an industry board for a new limited series titled Hollow Creek, a drama about two estranged sisters, one returning home after scandal. The resemblance to The Quiet Years was unmistakable, except this version carried none of the gloss. One industry insider tweeted, "So Reese is producing another Southern grief drama after letting Blake take hers?" I'm screaming. What looked like defeat was actually a calculated move. Reese let Blake take the spotlight, pose in every still, claim the story as her own, and when the project collapsed under its own weight, Reese quietly relaunched it on a better platform with a stronger team, proving her sharpest play was walking away before the implosion and letting the fallout speak for itself. While Blake was posting curated quotes about grief and glamour, and as The Quiet Years quietly vanished from Netflix's front page, another storm was already brewing. Emma Stone was deep in final talks for a sharp psychological thriller from the same studio, a career pivot built around her talents, a stripped-down, two-character film pitched as a dark, unsettling story of a woman returning to her hometown after surviving a cult, only to discover she may have been complicit in something even darker. The project had a title, a director, and even a private greenlight memo from Netflix. Emma's team was assured it was hers. Then, without warning, communication stopped. The tone shifted. Soon, word arrived that the role was moving in another direction. That direction was Blake Lively. Overnight, the title was altered, the budget doubled, and the script began undergoing rewrites tailored to align with Blake's glossy brand. But unlike Reese Witherspoon, Emma didn't slip away quietly. She pressed for answers, and her frustrations surfaced indirectly. A former crew member, later speaking on a now-deleted podcast, revealed that Emma wasn't angry about Blake winning the role. She was furious that the entire film had been reshaped behind her back to fit Blake's PR-driven image. Then Ryan Reynolds entered the frame. Sources claimed he offered uncredited creative input, functioning like a shadow producer, recommending tone shifts, a tighter visual arc, and even suggesting a rewritten ending, one Blake had supposedly workshopped herself. Industry leaks buzzed with disbelief. So Blake replaced Emma Stone in a cult thriller and Ryan Reynolds is now an uncredited producer? Are we being punked, or is this just Hollywood now? Emma, however, chose dignity. She skipped press, avoided public shade, but at the Poor Things Oscar panel in early 2024, when asked if she'd return to Netflix originals, she gave a sly smile and replied, "I'm not really into rebranding pain into fashion. I like telling stories." No names, no direct shots, yet the implication was unmistakable. And that's when the pattern became undeniable. Margot, Reese, Meryl, and Emma. This wasn't coincidence, nor random casting shifts. It was systemic. One actress erased, another inserted, while in the background stood a smiling couple with executive influence, bulletproof PR, and the sheen of perfect branding. Take Meryl Streep, for instance. She doesn't feud. She exits gracefully and deliberately, usually with good reason. Back in 2022, Netflix had quietly greenlit In the Grey, a prestige slow-burn political thriller already drawing awards buzz. The story followed a retired war correspondent confronting the truth about a cover-up she had never reported, and the young journalist determined to expose it. It was bold, timely, and written specifically for Meryl, with her even listed as an executive producer. The script was tailored to her cadence, her gravitas, and casting had already begun. But then, just as with Reese, just as with Emma, someone else stepped into the picture, and the pattern threatened to repeat itself once again. Everything seemed attached and steady, but then the atmosphere shifted. The younger journalist role in the Grey, originally meant for a lesser-known indie actress, was suddenly offered to Blake Lively, and with her arrival came the machinery. New stylist, new PR team, new tone. What began as a story about silence, regret, and institutional guilt was gradually reframed into a narrative about resilience, redemption, and a softer, more sympathetic arc. One Netflix editor later confessed on a podcast, "My character went from haunted and flawed to basically a wise mentor in a redemption story. It lost its edge. It lost her." Blake remained attached as co-lead, production resumed under new direction, and Meryl Streep never publicly addressed the change. But at a Directors Guild panel 3 months later, when asked about streaming culture's obsession with image, she paused before offering a line that rippled across the industry. "There's a strange shift happening where influence seems to matter more than instinct. The question is no longer, can you disappear into the character? But will the audience still see you?" That single sentence trended for days, because no one needed her to say Blake's name. The online reaction was immediate. Award Season Truth tweeted, "Meryl Streep said more in one sentence than an entire PR team says in 6 months, and we all know exactly who she meant." Then came the twist. Ryan Reynolds had been attached as one of the executive producers, quietly, through a shell label formed in late 2021, a company specializing in elevated female narratives with commercial legs. The same label Blake used to pitch her Barbie-adjacent project in 2023. Same structure, same playbook, same pattern. Meryl didn't fight. She didn't feed the fire. She wanted the story she was promised. And when that vanished, so did she. But she left behind a quote sharp enough to expose the game. By early 2024, whispers spread about a pitch deck, an unauthorized Barbie extension with Blake Lively's name front and center. The project was called Barbie After Pink. It wasn't a sequel, wasn't authorized, and certainly wasn't Greta Gerwig's vision. According to a leaked agency brief, the concept repositioned Barbie not as a toy or a character, but as a brand identity for modern womanhood, spanning motherhood, wellness, legacy, entrepreneurship, the evolution of Barbie beyond fantasy. The deck featured not just photo references, but also mock product lines, crossover collabs, and a full PR calendar. At the bottom, strategic brand advisor Ryan Reynolds. Bold didn't begin to cover it. Mattel had never approved it. Warner Brothers had never seen it. Margot Robbie's name wasn't mentioned once. When the deck circulated to marketing partners, Warner Brothers quietly issued a cease and desist. Margot didn't post, didn't rant, didn't drag anyone. But 3 days after the leak, Lucky Chap, her production company, tweeted a single sentence: "Barbie is not a brand. She's a story." The internet erupted. Film Feminist posted, "Margot just shut down Blake's Barbie After Pink collab without even saying her name. That's legacy energy." Within days, the campaign froze. Emails stopped. Meetings vanished. A fashion label quietly withdrew from the capsule line. Ryan stayed silent. Blake responded with an Instagram story, a pink smoothie beside a notebook reading "Build Your Own Legacy." No caption, but the timing spoke volumes. Because if Reese Witherspoon marked the beginning and Emma Stone signaled the shift, then Margot Robbie was the line they weren't supposed to cross. And they crossed it anyway. By the time Barbie After Pink collapsed, the so-called Blake Lively pattern appeared to have hit a wall. Reese had walked away. Emma had spoken indirectly. Margot had pushed back. Yet one actress had remained silent, and what happened next made the silence brutal. In late 2023, Mother Mary, a stylized drama about grief, faith, and female control, began generating quiet Oscar buzz. Anne Hathaway was the lead, A24 was backing it, and the original cut was raw, devastating, and bold, the kind of film designed to sweep award season. Until it wasn't. Just a month before release, Mother Mary underwent a strategic re-edit for broader appeal. What had been a meditation on trauma and rebirth was reshaped into a hyper-stylized fashion drama with heavy commercial undertones. When the revised trailer dropped, confusion spread instantly. CinemaCracked tweeted, "Wait, what happened to Anne's cow film? Mother Mary looks like a Lana Del Rey perfume ad now. Did someone rebrand this overnight?" Leaks soon followed. A source inside production revealed that a strategic marketing partner had advised the cuts, labeling entire scenes as too internal, too bleak. The partner was Wavelength Studios, a marketing group co-owned by a private firm with ties to Ryan Reynolds' longtime business manager. Sources confirmed that consultants had guided the edits. Hathaway's team declined to comment. And herself didn't tweet or lash out. She simply arrived at the premiere in a stark black dress, without a stylist credit, without brand partnerships, just her presence. When asked about the shift, she delivered a single sentence. Stories change, but some of us remember how they started. That line detonated online. Oscar Oracle tweeted, and Hathaway just ended Blake's rebranding campaign without even saying her name. Iconic. Fans compared leaked footage from the original cut with the theatrical release. The difference was jarring. The most discussed absence was a 7-minute monologue and delivered in a confession booth, stripped entirely. In its place, a montage, a soft focus, and a close-up of her in stained glass light. Stylish, polished, hollow. And hadn't lost. She had been erased. And this time, there was no obvious villain, just a faceless marketing firm, a quiet consultant, and a man never seen in press, while his wife posted about transformational branding. The whispers grew louder. By March 2025, the pattern was undeniable. It wasn't one actress nor one film. It was a chain. Disappearances, rewrites, premieres without co-stars, trailers that no longer matched the original story, and always the same two names quietly in the background. It all traced back to a private dinner in West Hollywood, mid-February. The guest list was short. A creative advisory group backed by one of Netflix's partner firms, 2 streaming executives, a studio publicist, and, according to leaked RSVPs, Ryan Reynolds. Blake wasn't listed, but she didn't need to be. What happened next was worse. That dinner, Ryan was reportedly linked to the circulation of a studio-level blacklist, a quiet internal document identifying unfavorable pairings and non-approved female leads. At first, it sounded like rumor. But when the leaked pages began to match the disappearances, the names Reese and Emma, Margot, Meryl, the dots aligned. A story no one wanted to say aloud began to take shape. This wasn't random casting politics. This was a pattern, coordinated, repeatable, deliberate. And every time the story broke, the ending looked the same. One actress gone, another inserted, and Blake Lively framed not as a disruptor, but as the safe face of a project already stripped and polished. There was no letterhead, no signature, just a stark title. Echo Pull Talent Advisory. Do not greenlight without brand review. Beneath it sat 12 names, some predictable, Reese and Emma, others less expected. But the real shock wasn't the list itself, it was the column beside the names. Conflict risk. Brand dilution via aesthetic overlap. Translation: actresses deemed too similar, too strong, too uncooperative, too unwilling to bend into a marketable image. Hollywood Leaks tweeted, "This is wild." The Echo hold doc literally marks and Reese and Margot as brand dilution risks. Who TF is behind this? Days later, Margot Robbie trended again, not for Barbie, not for a new role, but for who she unfollowed, Ryan Reynolds. That was when another detail surfaced. A photo from 2023, forgotten in press archives, began circulating. It showed Ryan seated beside a Netflix executive, and on the table between them, a manila folder with a single word stamped on the side. Echo. No caption, no article, just a candid image. But in hindsight, it looked like a receipt. The pattern wasn't just whispers anymore, it was strategy. Whether Blake Lively was the face or the distraction, Ryan was the one who kept appearing behind the curtain. While actresses were being told to adjust their image, someone else had already decided who no longer fit. The Echo hold document was never supposed to leak. It wasn't meant to exist. No official logos, no studio trail, just names and coded labels. Conflict risks, aesthetic overlaps, too public, too principled. And then 2 entries stood out, completely blacked out, no initials, no identifiers, just blank lines with an asterisk, pending, currently under soft freeze. The internet went into overdrive. Reddit threads, YouTube breakdowns, Twitter theories, every frame dissected. And soon one name kept surfacing. Zendaya. Not because she confirmed anything, not because she appeared with Blake, but because she suddenly disappeared from a Netflix legal drama she had been attached to alongside Meryl Streep. No announcement, no press release, just gone. Weeks later, Blake's stylist was spotted at the project's table read. The second redacted entry caused even more debate. Some swore it was Rachel Zegler. Others argued Jenna Ortega. But a quiet insider forum floated a different theory: Florence Pugh. Days before the leak, Florence had posted a single cryptic line on her Instagram story: "I don't audition to be digestible." No hashtags, no caption, deleted within 30 minutes. Fans read it as frustration, but in light of the blacklist, it looked like a warning. The chilling part was this: the blacklist wasn't shrinking. It was expanding. Actresses weren't just losing roles, they were being flagged before the projects even existed. Studios didn't need to say no. They simply didn't pick up the phone. And then, finally, someone broke the silence. Not a vague tweet, not a blind item, but a direct voice in a place no one expected. A small podcast, uploaded without fanfare, then shared everywhere. The guest, Emily Blunt. The clip: "You can't play the long game when the rules keep changing. You stay quiet, you get replaced. You speak up, you're difficult. I just decided I'd rather be difficult than erased." Within hours, Audio Vault Clips tweeted, "Emily Blunt just torched the Blake Ryan PR machine in under 30 seconds. We've got our first public confirmation, folks." That was the moment everything cracked. Silence ended. Suddenly, the stories weren't dismissed as gossip. The leaked documents weren't dismissed as fakes. The vanishing names weren't treated as coincidence. They were connected. They were real. And one by one, the voices who had been erased began to rise. What looked like sabotage was exposed as a system. And once that system was named, there was no way to put it back in the shadows.